Hi, this review is for the Dugato Watercolors and their synthetic paintbrush set. I admit I did not need another watercolor set, and I'm pretty committed to my Princeton Neptune paintbrushes. But something about these supplies, coupled with their low price, made me go ahead and try them out. I was fully prepared to receive something of poor quality, and instead was really impressed. It used to be that if you bought something super affordable, you could dismiss the poor quality by saying you get what you pay for, or it was cheap, what'd you expect? But more and more I find myself shocked at how good sets like this are. This is up there in bargain for quality with the Paul Rubens student grade set known as Pretty Excellent, or the recent Mia brand set, which are all priced around $20 or less. All of these sets include color names, but no pigment ingredient information, though they all use pretty standard looking pigment selections with self ratings of 2 to 3 of 3-star lightfast ratings. I'll be doing a lightfast test to verify that, but have so far had no issues with the other sets I mentioned, and I don't expect much fading with this set either. There has never been a more affordable time to learn watercolor painting without breaking the bank or putting up with terrible quality supplies. Over the years, I have repeatedly heard artists recommend high-cost professional-grade paints to beginners. I feel like this advice is starting to become out of date because you no longer have to struggle with bad supplies because you couldn't afford better ones. Often, when beginners buy expensive paints, it discourages them from playing, learning, and feeling free to make mistakes out of the fear of wasting paint. This is a great set to avoid those fears, while using a set that won't hinder most watercolor techniques. These paints are highly pigmented, vibrant, not chalky, and the 24 colors are almost entirely transparent, making them ideal for learning layering techniques. The skin tone color would have been more appropriately labeled as peach, beige, or even tan, since there is such a huge variety of skin tones in the world. There are plenty of colors to mix your own browns from, but the burnt umber and pale red work really well as starting points for different skin tones. It has a really intense magenta that dilutes to beautiful floral pinks, along with other cool and warm reds that allow for experimenting with color mixing. The paints were rock hard and not sticky. They were likely baked to harden. They took slightly more effort than pro-grade paints to re-wet the first time they were used, but after that top layer dissolved, this stopped being noticeable. I only have one negative to mention, which is that the set claims to have a Payne's Gray, but it actually has a lamp black instead. This means there are two blacks, a dark smooth black and a different ivory black that is slightly lighter and has a granulating texture. In the end, this is fairly minor because most common Payne's Gray or indigo paints are made from mixtures of blue and black, which this set has plenty of for you to mix your own. Those pre-mixed colors are commonly used for shadows or night skies, but depending on the black you choose for mixing, this set gives you the freedom to decide if you wish to add a bit of texture effect or not if you don't like the granulation. Some experienced painters may decide that they don't have a use for white or black paints, but even if you toss them aside, as a 21 color set, I would still be incredibly impressed with the bargain. It should be noted that cerulean is also a hue, like the cadmium is labeled, meaning that it is not the genuine cadmium pigment, but rather a color that looks similar and is non-toxic. I wish there was an ultramarine blue instead of the extra black, but again, for this price, there's only so much I want to complain about. The greens were lovely and varied, and while you could mix them for yourself, these are beautiful colors that work great in florals straight from the pans. The reds may initially appear similar on the color chart, but they dilute to different types of cool or warm reds, making warm peach to cool pink colors. This set has enough colors that beginners will have an easy time without having to do a lot of mixing, but it gives many options for more colors for those who want to experiment. I purchased this set of 10 round brushes separately. I was intrigued by the fact that they are made from a black synthetic nylon fiber designed to hold water similarly to squirrel hair. I love my animal-friendly Princeton Neptune brushes for that reason, and when I saw this set looked like a good quality for less than a third of the price of my Neptune brushes, I wanted to try them out. The capacity was impressive. However, they hold slightly less water than my Neptune brushes. Unlike the Neptune brushes, though, they come to a finer point and snap back into shape after each stroke, which I think is more beginner-friendly. Before painting, I took a few minutes to get a feel for how the brushes handle. I was happy that they didn't dump water out in a big blob, but rather dispense the water in a controlled manner. I was able to create small lines of fine grass or hair-like strokes with even the largest brush, and then press down to be able to fill in larger spaces if I wanted. For this painting demonstration, I first prepared my drawing with waterproof ink on B cold pressed paper. I'll put the link to everything I used in this video in the description section. I should note that B watercolor paper is particularly good for layering techniques due to the way it absorbs paints. The surface allows watercolors to be more staining than other papers. This means that glazing over previously dried layers of paint will not cause them to lift up and erase. I used an assortment of brush sizes in this painting, but I really could have done almost all of it with the largest brush because it came to such a fine point. However, the smaller brushes are really nice to make sure that you won't load your brush with too much paint at once, limiting the likeliness of a big blob sort of mistake. Overall, I found both products to be an excellent value, and perhaps best of all, they are supplies I feel like I can use up even if I'm just playing around, trying to learn something, practicing in my sketchbook, or even taking on a vacation or for urban sketching where there's this risk of damaging or losing them. I picked up some other new paints that I'll review next week. It's been really difficult to keep my art supply hoarding in check with all the new brands popping up. So to help me justify some of these purchases, I'm going to commit to creating artwork as often as possible as I continue to build this channel. These weekly videos keep me motivated to really play with my art supplies in a more in-depth way. I hope you enjoyed it, and I appreciate your feedback. Thanks for watching.